Hey, everybody. I'm verklempt. That got me very emotional. This is going to be fun. Are you ready? Well, let's start it out with the lady herself, Emmy winner Susan Lucci.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to see you all here today. Thank you for coming.
She played Opal Cortland. Give it up for Jill Larson.
You know, we just watched the little.
Oh my gosh, I did that wrong. Here, you sit here.
Okay. I thought I was supposed to follow Kelly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I fell in love with her as Haley Vaughn. I really fell in love with her as Kelly Ripa. Sorry.
Screw it up anyway. I was gonna screw that up either way.
Give
Hi,
it up
guys.
for Erica's daughter, Bianca Montgomery, Eden Riegel. This lady was a MILF before that was a thing. It's Marion Colby, Jennifer Bassey. You know, you fell in love with her as Kitty Shea Davis Tyler. She also was Kelly Cole Tyler. And then she was the show's executive producer. It's Francesca James. The woman largely responsible for so many of the storylines and words that you all fell in love with and saw. This is All My Children's head writer, Lorraine Broderick. Last but not least, the woman who discovered, among others, Mark Consuelos, its casting director, Judy Blye Wilson. This is so fun. I'm so excited to be able to get to do this. What an absolute honor. And I just want to say, I started watching All My Children myself in the 80s. When I was in college, I had the opportunity to interview someone famous for a class, and I wanted to interview either Sam Donaldson or Susan Lucci. I wrote a letter that I wish I still had today to Susan Lucci. It actually got to her. She actually said yes, fly to New York, and she took me to lunch. And this was that day, December 19th, I believe, in 1989, or 88. Do we have the photo? There we are. There we are.
We both had such 80s hair. I can't believe we fit in the same frame.
Me too. A few years later, I was a producer at CBS, and I'm walking into the broadcast center, and Kelly Ripa was in the lobby. And when I tell you, I accosted her and professed my fandom for her. So it's such a joy. It's such a full circle moment to be able to sit here with all of you and do this. And I want to get each of you into this conversation really quickly. So I just want to go down the row just as a warm up and tell me your favorite storyline that you were involved with starting. I mean, that's hard, Susan. You were on the show for how long?
was on the show from day 10.
Okay. Did you have anything stand out?
It's real. Well, there's so much.
Right.
Erica was a very busy character.
Yes, she was.
And so it's very hard for me to choose just one. But I just want to say a word about our lunch that day. When Andy was a college student and had written me, we had such a great lunch. And I remember saying to him, because you were interested in being a newscaster at the time, you are going to be the head of you're going to be the bureau chief in London, and then you're going to come here to New York, and you're going to be an anchor. We're going to see you.
She did.
Well, and then
She
you became
did.
an executive at CBS.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, and on and on and on.
So my favorite Erica era was Erica in New York, being a model, and when you took Jenny under your wing, and that whole era. I absolutely love that. Kelly, do you have a favorite Haley era?
I think my favorite overall storyline that I was like kind of involved in was Who Killed Will? Because I don't know if you remember when we were all suspected of killing Will Cortland, and naturally the killer had a trench coat, and so suddenly all of us as actors started popping up in scenes wearing trench coats.
Yes.
Like weird flashers. We'd just be in high school in a trench coat. Or church in a trench coat.
I remember
Great.
that.
It was like my favorite.
Do we remember who killed Will Cortland? Lorraine?
I wasn't there.
Okay.
It had to be Erica, or I don't know. Did you kill Will?
No.
I covered up some other wedding.
Oh,
Janet from
of
Another
course,
Planet.
Janet. Yes, Janet killed her.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's funny.
I went to
honestly couldn't
prison
remember.
for
I
killing
just-
Zach Grayson.
Jill, do you have a favorite Opal storyline?
There was kind of an
Use your mic.
Oh, sorry. There was kind of an arc in the beginning where Daisy came and did sort of a Pygmalion on me, tried to kind of spiff me up a little bit so that I'd be okay for Palmer.
Yes.
And then there was an Auntie Mame story where I went out riding and came back, of course, all askew. I told him I could ride, of course. And then there was the Cinderella where I got trapped in the attic and I had to climb down the drain pipe
Wow.
to appear at the ball, but my hair was perfect.
Of course. Eden?
Well, I have to say, I also took part in a Who Killed storyline. Who killed Michael Cambius? And
Oh, wow.
I was so surprised to find out was the killer.
Wow.
But there were very many suspicious people, and when I got that script and Bianca suddenly remembered that she killed him, I was just as shocked as she was. But my favorite storyline has to be Bianca's coming out, because it was so groundbreaking and such an honor to be a part of.
And quite groundbreaking for its time. Yeah.
It really was.
Shout out, by the way, to the Who Killed Zach Grayson storyline, I'm just remembering. Jennifer,
Yes, sir.
favorite storyline?
Well, aside from sleeping with all the young men on the show, my favorite storyline was my little drunk scene when I thought I slept with Adam, who was married to my daughter. I said, I slept with my daughter's husband again. And it wasn't him, it was Stuart. And I didn't know that, so I got to marry Stuart. And David Canary said, well, Adam had the brains, but Stuart had the goods.
Francesca, did you have a favorite era of the show that you were involved with? It's so interesting that you were both on it and the executive producer.
The show changed so much through the years.
Yeah.
Because daytime changed so much through the years.
Yep.
I love the show. Susan and I have been associated with this show since we were children almost.
Yeah.
But I think that early on, when it was a small show,
Yeah.
and we were all together, and it was really a company of actors,
Yeah.
and most of them were drawn from the community, the theater community. It was lovely. We all took our notes together. We all taped from the beginning of the show to the end of the show, just like doing a play. Nowadays, you can't do any of that because it's
Are you
too fast.
saying in the beginning it was shot chronologically?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
And we rehearsed chronologically.
Wow.
So if our hair was all wet from a scene during dress rehearsal, we had to run to the hair and makeup room and get all blown out again.
Yes.
3.5 minutes and do the
Yes,
show.
but one of the nicest things about it, Andy, was that there was, I think there were like 20 of us, Susie, something like that, 20, 21 of us in the cast. But you would go into the makeup room, and let's say Susan is doing a scene. Everyone in the makeup room is watching the monitor. So everyone got to see everyone else's work. Nowadays, that doesn't happen. So
And that was invaluable. I can say you mentioned that we all got our notes together. They used to call red chairs. There were red director's chairs on the set at that time. And Erica was a busy character, as I said, so I would be really chained to the set. And I couldn't go anywhere because there would be another scene. But the best part was that I got to see everybody else's work. And as a young actress just beginning, I got to have the benefit of sitting there. I had seen their scenes and listened to what the directors told them, as notes to be better. And there was one director who we all know, Henry Kaplan, who directed us with a wand and had a great sense of humor. But he would say to me, for example, just before I was going on, you're as sexy as a fish. Step it up.
Are fish sexy?
do you know why?
Right.
Susan, do you know why Henry directed with a wand?
No.
Because he was dyslexic. He didn't know his left from his right. So he carried the wand in his right hand so he could say, move right.
Wow. Lorraine, was there a storyline or an era that stood out to you as a writer?
You see me sitting here with all these actors.
Yeah.
Do you want me to come out of here alive?
Well,
I don't have any favorites.
right. By the way, when you would work on a Who Killed Will Cortlandt storyline, you obviously knew from the beginning who it was.
Well, that was not my storyline.
But
we did, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we always
Yes.
knew who.
Judy, do you have a few, with present company excluded, are there a few people that you cast on the show that you're particularly proud of discovering, or that they, stood out in ways that maybe surprised you?
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
Really.
Are you on the hot seat right now, Judy?
Yes.
What did you say?
Are you on the hot seat right now?
I am. No, there really were so many fantastic actors. I think for two reasons during the era that 22 years that I was there. One, because we lived in New York and we were so lucky to get New York talent. And the other, because I honestly think everyone wanted to be on the show that Susan Lucci was on. And
Right.
that's really true. I have no reason to say that, but I honestly believed it helped a lot. And it had a tremendous reputation, and we all loved it. And there was a lot of love on that set, always. Of course, I cast some people that became very famous. And
Give me some names.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Mark Consuelos, who I mentioned.
Oh, I have.
If I may add, without Judy, I would literally have nothing. I would not have my husband.
That's true.
I would not have my children.
It's true.
Who are responsible for every good thing that's ever happened to us. Right. And I just want to publicly say that because I've said it before, but without you,
I mean, they couldn't make a decision about Mark, and I was so behind him, and I brought Kelly into my office, and I showed her a black and white picture of him in his headshot, and she really liked him, really. And I did everything, and I don't know why they were dragging their heels on it, but they actually had him play the role. So he started playing the role, and I had to continue to search for another person. So we screen tested Mark several times. Finally, I begged the producer, and she relinquished, and it turned out to be one of the best parts that I ever cast, because it not only maintained for that story, but it obviously maintained for your life, which is fabulous, just fabulous. And I did cast Chaz Boseman, who became very famous, as we all know. And he was only on the show for just a week because they really wanted the character to be about 16, 15 years old. And Chaz had just come out of Juilliard. He was a magnificent actor to audition. And long story short, they fired him, and then I put in Michael B. Jordan, who became just as famous. And he was only about 15 at that time. Now, I could go on and on, but I think I don't want to do that.
You know, people hated it when their characters were replaced. I remember all of a sudden there was a new Nina one day. I'm like, where the hell is Nina? This is not Nina. And so, you know, I wonder, Jill, for you coming in and stepping into the shoes of the great Dorothy Lyman, who really created that role and made it her own, how challenging was that for you, and how did you do it? Because you did it so well.
Well, thank you. Oh. I'm just so comfortable sitting here talking to everybody. Sorry, I'm not forgetting you, but yeah. Well, I had the benefit of a 6-year gap, which really helped a lot, you know. So there was that. It was not like the time when Michael broke his shoulder bone and collarbone, and we had to replace him immediately. And so Katie and I had come to what was supposedly the funeral of Tad, and suddenly there was another person in the box. Who didn't look anything like Michael. But so I didn't have that to contend with. But I had known, actually, Dorothy was rehearsing me in an off-Broadway play on the day that she said, "Oh, it's lunch. I got to go over to all my children and see if I can get some, you know, earn some money." And she was going to audition for Opal, and so.
Wow, you knew her then.
Yeah. Well, we went to competing high schools in Minneapolis together.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I know it is.
I just have to say something about Mark and Kelly. I was happy to be in the hair and makeup room watching their audition scenes.
Really?
Oh, and we were all like, oh, get a room. The chemistry between you two was coming right through the screen. Good casting, Judy.
Well, you know, interesting that you bring that up, Susan, because I'm curious, bringing in people to play a love interest. You know, Judy, did Susan have veto power over the guys coming in to play her? Because there had to be some level of chemistry, I would think, between the actors, right?
Absolutely.
I was a really lucky actress. I mean, come on. These guys were all so handsome and so good at what they did. I mean, you gave me a whole slew of wonderful people to work with. But I kissed a lot of strangers because sometimes after the audition scene would say, "What is your name?"
But also, Susan is one of these actresses that you have chemistry with a doorknob, a window shade, a lampshade.
Right.
It's like you could, I mean, it's really your chemistry that I think.
Was there, you know, Susan is vertically challenged a little bit. Although she's the only, you know, Erica Kane is the only supermodel that was 5'3". But also, you know, Susan, I would always notice that Erica would put her hand on the chest of her men. Was there a height requirement to be your love interest?
First of all, I think that's as high as I could probably reach on most of these guys.
Okay.
But there wasn't a height requirement that I'm aware of.
No,
but
not
but
whatsoever.
Like Walt Willey, who played Jack.
Yeah,
Jack
Walt Willey.
So tall.
He's so tall. He's like 6'3".
So many.
He seems like he's still growing.
I think you're right. But he would stand. I mean, I have a short dress on. I was going to wear jeans, but Erica said no way.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so Walt always did scenes with me like this, and that would bring him down.
Look at your legs. I mean, that is insane that you
That you
still
could
have
do
those
that.
legs.
You know why? It's that Malibu Pilates Susan Lucci chair.
I'm still doing
Yes, it is. Well, Susan, on the topic of Erica, we have a clip of Erica from the early 70s that I want to show that really kind of is emblematic of how it all began for you. Let's take a look.
Hi, honey. Hi. Did you have dinner? Mm-hmm. Yes, I did. Erica, you should have called me. Oh, well, I couldn't. By the way, Chuck's coming over later. Oh. Are you here again?
Yes, Erica, but not for long. I'm almost leaving.
Are you going out again? Well, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how we feel. Now that she has that car, I never know where she is. Sometimes she goes 4 or 5 places in one evening.
Well, you gotta go where the action is, Mona. Isn't that right, Erica?
When there is any. I mean, Pine Valley isn't exactly the corner of Hollywood and Vine.
You know, in watching that clip, even as much as you put the great Mona, your mom, Erica's mom, through, I always loved Erica's relationship with the kind of elders of the show, Myrtle, Phoebe, Mona. Were they the only people that Erica kind of would show half amount of respect to?
I don't recall any respect being shown.
I love it. Kelly, dating someone on the show, you and Mark were dating as you were love interests. Was that, by the way, did a lot of people date who were love interests?
It's really strange. Some people were dating because you have to understand, we all worked really long hours. And so dating on set was not really uncommon because you didn't really know any other people or get to meet other people. So there were a few people dating. We always thought we were keeping it quiet because we didn't want there to be this sort of weird, oh, they can't possibly work together because what if they break up and then we'll have to get rid of one of them? So we thought we were very stealthy about it. Apparently we weren't.
Right.
But we thought we were very undercover.
Eden, I would think that coming in to play Erica's daughter would be a daunting task at the age of 18. Talk to me about how you wrapped your head around that.
The night before my screen test, I saw her present at the Tonys, and I was like, how can I even speak in this woman's presence? I don't know how I'm going to say lines, and I certainly don't know how I'm going to yell at her, because there was a lot of sass happening and backtalk. But you know Susan. We all know Susan. Susan always made an effort to approach every new person on the set and welcome them and make them feel comfortable and take all the stress and drama away and save it for the scenes. And she was so welcoming and so warm, and that has just continued. I mean, she's a very special person in my life, in all of our lives. And
back at you, my goodness.
And it's, it's called All My Children. We really are a family. We really are. Nice work, Judy. So yeah, she made it easy, and she's also easy to love. So I didn't have to do a lot of acting. I could just, treat her like family. And
thank you, Eden, so much. Really, I just want to add. Jean DiDario Burke was producing at the time, executive producing, and she called me into her office when she was telling me what the storyline was coming up about. I was having a 16-year-old daughter who was going to come out to me. We both sat there, both Jean and just the two of us, with tears just streaming down our cheek at how spectacular this storyline would be. And what I did say to Jean, I don't think I ever had veto power or would ever want to have veto power. The only thing I said to Jean is, oh, I hope we find the young actress who gets it, who really gets it and can be wonderful delivering this material. And in walks Eden Riegel, and there could be no better person cast in this part of Bianca. Yeah, good work. Nice work, Judy.
Thank you.
Jennifer, you had so many delicious storylines. I came in around the time that you were playing Marcy Walker's mom, Liza Colby, and you and Tad were having an affair. What were those love scenes like with Michael Knight for you?
Well, when Jackie Babin hired me, she said, "You're going to have to sleep with a 19-year-old. I said, really? I said, well, if he can handle it, I can handle it. And so I met Mikey, who was just adorable. He was 21 playing 19, you know, tight squeeze. And we literally, we choreographed chest hair. I was going to play with your chest hair here. And then we choreographed our love scenes. We had more fun. We laughed ourselves silly.
That's
really,
great.
Doing our love scenes. And we had the best time. It was the greatest storyline. I just loved it. And I was the evilest mother of all, which I loved.
Francesca and Lorraine, were you very competitive with the other ABC soaps? Was it very important for you to be number one, and were you watching what they were doing, or where did they place in your minds?
We were certainly always aware of what was happening on the other soaps, but there was a feeling of ABC family.
Uh-huh.
You know, One Life to Live came on right after All My Children, then General Hospital. Sometimes actors went from one show to another, and it would be a favorite actor that you'd had on one show, and you would want to see what they were doing on the next one.
I actually did that.
Yeah.
I actually did
She
that.
did.
I was
Yeah.
on One Life to Live, and I got shot off as the babyface killer. And Aggie called and said, we've got something for you on All My Children. So that's how I ended up on All My Children. But I think that there was an evolution that happened, Andy, when Gloria Monty, who was producing General Hospital, started integrating all of these prime time elements into daytime television.
Uh-huh.
And then it started to shift from the conversational relationship stories, which we all valued so much, into remotes and all of these other obligations that we had. So I think from that standpoint, we were very observant as to what was going on with every other show.
And I'm not a writer, and I probably shouldn't jump in here, but I just have to pay homage to Agnes Nixon, because it was on the page. And as far as I could tell, before Agnes, there was very little humor on daytime television, and there was no glamour on daytime television, and that was the beginning
issues. She started
the social issues that
issues,
became
yeah.
so important. She was.
Yeah.
We called her the Good Witch because she would write storylines a year before they appeared in the headlines of newspapers.
Wow.
Yeah. So between Gloria Monty and Agnes Nixon, this genius, remarkable, spectacular storyteller that we all loved to have the material to play. How lucky were we?
So fortunate.
And
to
I
work
think
with
that
her.
was the
Yeah.
difference. I think Gloria had the production edge, but Agnes had the heart.
She did.
Agnes had the story.
One thing, Lorraine, y'all never did, but you would see it sometimes. Days of Our Lives, Marlena became a devil, and Passions was just a fantasy on mushrooms. But All My Children, you know, as it were, with the social issues and everything else, you had humor and stuff, but you never went into that realm of the other world.
No, not really. Again, it was Agnes. It was very grounded in reality, so people could really identify with it, get into the storylines. She taught us all everything we knew. I was a fan before I ever became a writer. And when I first interviewed and she handed me the breakdown so I could see what was going to happen next, I couldn't believe it. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. So, and then in the writer's room, it was always a free and open place where you could make any suggestion you wanted to. You didn't have to feel constrained or silly or well, maybe this is a terrible idea, but what if? One of those what ifs was originally Adam Chandler was going to have a wife up in the attic.
Oh, that's because there was banging in the attic, and
Yeah,
everyone was
and then
wondering. And that's how you came to
Well,
Stewart?
I just said, I didn't want to say anything stupid, but I said, you know, we have such a wonderful actor in David Canary. What if he has a twin brother up in the attic? And so, and then it became what it became, and we all loved writing for David. What a wonderful guy. You've all had worked with him, every one of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Susan.
You had great success with dual character actors.
Oh, yes.
You know, Kate Collins as Natalie and Janet from Another Planet.
Yes, yep.
Did the woman who played Silver Kane, did she play two characters? Or did Silver just turn out to be crazy?
Did Silver play?
There were two different Silvers, but she.
Oh, there were two different Silvers.
Right.
That first
That was a
one was
recast.
great. I mean,
It was great.
I'm sure the second one was
What's
great.
amazing though is usually like
I don't want to start any trouble.
Usually, characters never escape the attic. Like, if you're sent to the attic to look for something, that means you are written off the show. You can die and come back.
Did you?
You can die and come back as your twin. You can die and come back as somebody that's had reconstructive surgery. You can die in a million ways and come back. But if you are sent to the attic for any errand, picking up luggage, I've just got to run up to the attic. You knew that your contract negotiation ended and you were a goner. Am I right? And
Joey
David
Martin
escaped
Joey
the attic.
Martin went to the attic and never came down.
That's right.
There were two kinds of dead on the show. One was dead, and the other was dead, dead, dead.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you were just dead, you could always come back.
Did you all rely on cue cards? Did you have cue cards?
We had them, but you couldn't read them. And they weren't the right line when your line came up. You know, you'd go, what? What are they? So you just had to really kind of ad lib.
Well, they were
you know?
just in the very, very beginning when I first began. There were not cue cards, but they were on a little screen, and like when you go to
Like a teleprompter.
like a teleprompter, and they were tiny, and there would be members of the crew, who would hide behind chairs, and they would have those teleprompters. I don't think anyone of Erica's contemporaries, I didn't use them. I don't think anybody who
But
was
they were,
working
you
with
remember,
me.
they were hooked onto the cameras.
I never knew how they got their electricity. I
They
just
were
knew
right
that
beside
they were there. And
Well, because you never used them. You never used them.
no, I think it's like being a singer singing a song but not knowing the lyrics. You know, you have to know what you're saying and where
Right.
you're going and what the other person.
Yeah.
By the way, they
Say
use
back.
them pretty liberally at Young and the Restless. Just
they?
saying. Just
Andy.
saying. I'm not trying to start anything. Who could cry on command the best? Anyone come to mind? Any great criers on the cast?
Jill can. Susan can. Eden, I'm sure you can. I'm terrible at it. Yeah.
I think Kim could
cry right
pretty
now.
quickly, too.
Yeah.
Kim Delaney
Yeah,
played
Kim
Jenny. I
Delaney.
think that she was a good crier.
If you had a co-star with bad breath, did you give them a mint?
Very thick.
Yes, but they never wanted it.
Right. What did you do if you came in and they did your hair or makeup in a way that you didn't like?
Oh my God. I'll never forget. I walked into Francesca James' office when she was producing, and I said, Francesca, am I playing an older woman sleeping with younger men? Am I trying to look sexy? She said, yeah, you are. I said, do I look like a queen mother? She said, yeah. I said, well, you're going to find out what I said to the makeup people on the set. Wardrobe people. It was very bad. Very bad. Yeah, oh, it was horrible when you were bad. When you looked bad. You know, you just felt, I look bad.
Right.
But I wanted to say this, because after being in so many avenues in daytime, I can tell you that from my vantage point, the hardest jobs in daytime are writing and lighting.
Wow. Yes.
Lighting.
Yes.
And we only got to be a little better at it as we slowed down a
Yeah.
little bit. But it's very, very hard.
Noel Coward said, sex is a question of lighting. They would light our sets at 2 in the morning. They'd put up the sets for the day. And the sets looked great. And we'd go stand on the sets and we'd look horrible and old and haggard because we had no lights. Yeah.
I remember standing next to Jennifer on set. We were in the middle of something, and the lighting was, I guess, I didn't know anything about anything, much less lighting. And Jennifer and I were standing next to each other, and she said, Kelly Ripa is 23, and she looks 85 years old. I picked my face up out of my script, and I said, I do. And she said, yes, you do.
Did you all like shooting the all-cast events, like a wedding or a night at the chateau? Or was that a drag? It seems like, did they take forever? Were they
They
fun?
took forever. Yes. One night at somebody's wedding, it might have been Nina's wedding, I'm not sure, but anyhow, we wound up going on location to Tavern on the Green, which was just a couple blocks away. And we had shot the whole studio portion of the wedding, and the reception was going to be shot at Tavern on the Green. So we started before dawn, and we worked until dawn the next morning
Wow.
at 5 a.m.
Wow.
And we all went back to our dressing rooms and laid down and took a nap because we were getting up at 7:30. That was the first call in the morning to come back.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had fun with each other.
Yeah.
But they were really long to shoot.
It was always amazing to me on the show that I would turn it on and I would realize, wow, this day has been going on forever. Like, you would realize, is this the same day that she was at Tempo like a month ago? And now it's still that ball? Like, it really
And then
was-
weirdly, the children, like it'd be the same day, but in that day you would have a 3-month-old, and at the end of that day your child was 17. It was really wild.
Without naming names, were there ever actors who were couples on the show who really didn't get along? Without naming names. No one's taking this question. Okay, Judy says maybe. Okay, thank you. Lorraine, when I want to know how the viewers feel about a new housewife or how, what's happening on the Housewives, I go on Twitter. Is it true? Was mail really a big, force for y'all?
Well, when I started, I was a writer's assistant. I was so privileged to be able to work for Agnes. I learned so much from her. But my first job was opening the fan mail. And it was really a revelation. And I would set aside the ones that were helpful or interesting. And then there was the pile of letters like, "Your show has gotten even worse since I stopped watching it."
Right. But it was valuable to you. You could tell when someone was popping because the fan mail would start.
Absolutely. You'd have piles and piles about one storyline, mostly the ones where people were angry.
Yeah.
I died on the show. And I was privileged to work with Eileen Hurley and Peter White. And
Eileen Hurley was Myrtle.
Yes.
And who was Peter White?
Peter White was Lincoln.
Link, yes.
Whom I married twice.
Yes.
So I died on the show, and I went to New Haven to work at the theater. And I got a call from Aggie a year later who said, "The mail is crazy. I'm writing you a twin."
Wow. Did the twin and Link get together?
Of
Yes.
course.
Of course. Good. Okay. Just making sure I'm still on track.
My favorite fan mail of all was I got a letter from a woman, I don't know where she was living at the time, but she said, "Do you know you're sleeping with a murderer?" So I wrote back and said, "Yes, I read the script."
Susan, Erica had some great adversaries. I mean, she and Brooke, Natalie, Silver, I mentioned. Did you have a favorite sparring partner of Erica's?
What a great question. Nobody's asked me that before, but without a doubt, it was Brooke English.
Yeah.
Judy Barr. My favorite scenes, some of my favorite scenes. My favorite era was the one you mentioned where Erica was modeling all over New York.
Yeah.
I got to do that even though I'm 5'2" on a good day. So,
Okay.
yeah, but thank you for the 5'3". But anyway, I used to love when they would write the scenes in the ladies' rooms.
Yes,
And
at the
Brooke,
chateau.
At the chateau, and Brooke and I would run into each other. These were the best.
Yes. Very the women. Yes. I heard, did Ruth Warwick, was she a saucy lady?
Amazing.
Married
and
8 times.
saucy and-
She was what?
Married 8 times in real life.
Oh, perfect.
But in the beginning, when we would do the dress, we would do the dress rehearsal in order. So I had, again, the great opportunity to sit on stage on set. I couldn't leave. But Ruth Warwick, who played Phoebe, would hold court. And again, I was a young actress who was spectacular because she would talk about all the men in her life and give advice on men. And I knew she'd been married 3 times, but she also said she thought she had been married, she thought one of her children came from Orson Welles. But to be just out of college and sit there and listen to all these wonderful stories was pretty fantastic.
Looking back on her wig work, it was incredible.
When we first started the show, Andy, we used to have pre-rehearsals. So we would go in the day after we shot, and we'd read the script. And then we come in the next day and shoot. Yeah, a table read. Right. So I'm very new on the show. And Ruthie had just married Jarvis twice. She married one man twice. And she'd just come back from her honeymoon. And the pictures were going around the table. I don't know if you were there, Susie, or not. But the pictures were going around the table. And I was like 21 years old. Little Catholic girl from Michigan. So these photographs are going around the table, and everybody's going, "Oh, Ruthie, oh, these are beautiful. Oh, they're so beautiful." And they get to me, and there's Ruthie on a rock, Starkers. I was like, "Oh my gosh."
That's amazing. We have
She
some
was
questions.
great.
We have some questions from the audience. Dan Kroll wants to know what you think your character would be doing today in 2025. What would Erica be? What husband would she be on?
Well, when I left the show, I was going into double digits.
You were.
Yeah, but we had a low budget for a while, so some were twice.
Okay.
Some were not legal.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly what Erica would be doing right now, but something fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts about what
I think Erica could be married to like a tech billionaire, and she'd be running a foundation.
Oh, I like
Like
that.
she'd be running like a charitable trust, but maybe it has like a dark edge to it. And then naturally she has an affair with like her protege who's also running the charitable trust.
It sounds good,
Yeah,
Lorraine.
it's good. I'm just I'll put it in the suggestion box for stories of the future.
Meredith wrote, Judy, was there an actor or an actress who auditioned that you wish you would have cast? Any that got away? Anyone that you remember who wound up making it big and you realized, oh my God, that guy tried out for Tad?
Wow. I'm sure there's someone, but I blocked it out because I was always so proud of the guys that I generally really did well.
Yeah, you did.
We had a lot of
You
guys.
did a great
We
job.
had Leo, who was Josh Duhamel, and Cameron Matheson, and many, many terrific actors that walked through our gates.
And Michael B. Jordan, from the minute he came on All My Children,
Wow.
at 16 years old, he was a sweetheart. He was respectful, and
He certainly was.
Erica wasn't into characters, but in real life, that's a wonderful attribute. And certainly, Michael B. Jordan was prepared. He showed up on time. When I say respectful, that's respecting the company. You know, when you show up on time and you know your lines and you're there, committed and ready to work. And he was all of that from day one.
He was. He really
And I will
was.
just quickly add to that he was a junior, I think, in high school, and he came in one day and he said, "Gosh, I got a basketball scholarship to I don't know what college," and he said, "But I can't decide if I should take the scholarship or I kind of like acting." I said, "Take the scholarship."
Wow.
He's such a mom.
Lisa Schmidt wants to know who Erica's favorite husband was.
So many men, so little time. It's a wonderful group of men to work with. Mona's favorite was Dick Schoberg.
Tom Cudahy.
Tom Cudahy. She really was rooting for him. You know, Jack Montgomery was the one who wouldn't leave and couldn't get out of her life, and she couldn't walk away from him too much. Although at the end, she was in the crosshairs of that rifle, going after Jack because she had left him again. I guess Jack. Yeah.
Is that how the show ended?
Yes.
Wow.
And you heard the rifle go off, but. Well, again, this is Agnes. All great romance novels end with a cliffhanger and want you to come back. And I have to say that Lorraine, we all knew as actors when you were head writer, when you were there, and when we got scripts that weren't yours, the actors would come to me in the morning and say, "What do you think about this? You think this seems like my character?" And there were times where we were all holding on tooth and nail, but you were it. Lorraine, you were the one we all looked for.
I was so fortunate to learn from Agnes. She was the best. What you said earlier, though, about the ending, we had an entirely different happy ending of All My Children, the final script that we all worked so hard on. And then they decided to pick it up on this short-term internet thing that happened, and we had to go back in and change everything so that everything was a cliffhanger, so that they would have something. If we tied everything up and Erica were happily married to Jack, what do you do then?
Wow.
So we had to change the whole thing. So that's an interesting inside glimpse into what happened when they moved the show up to Connecticut for a short while. So.
Wow. What do you all? I'm assuming you all. I mean, your lives are full and different. What do you miss about the show, Eden?
Gosh, these people primarily, and the work. I mean, as Francesca said, it's the closest thing to theater with a slightly better paycheck that an actor can ask for, to be in a company of people, to have new material to work on every day, meeting in the corridors and running lines and trying to figure things out and asking each other questions about character and story and of course we all loved the relationships and the conversations and how you could follow the arcs. You could get really in depth because the days were sometimes weeks. You could have many deep conversations about what was going on, and sometimes that's lost in a visual medium, in a blow things up kind of world. And we really got to do some meaty stuff.
Well, not only that, but how lucky were you all to be a part of something that captivated so many millions of people. I mean, if you look at how the media landscape has changed and where we are now, the highest rated primetime show would be thrilled to get the ratings that All My Children was getting, in the day. And you all were there, and you all were just huge stars to many, many, many millions of people. And what an incredible era that must have been to be a part of.
It certainly was, Andy. I remember an early article that TV Guide did said that All My Children had 60 million viewers a week.
Wow. I mean...
And well, it was also, I mean, that was even before VCRs and then, however people were gathering. Right. But also, what I love too is how multi-generational the appeal was of the show across races, genders, generations, and that was very thrilling to me. And 60% of our audience was men. A lot of ball players who work split shifts, and a lot of people, doctors who work split shifts, or if musicians, or if men were laid up with a broken ankle or the flu during college, they got hooked. And
or little gay boys in St. Louis.
Thank God.
Sister, or wherever.
Thank God for those little gay boys in St. Louis.
We all saw Erica, and we were like, wait a minute, who's she? Speaking of which, it was a different era. And when you cast someone, there were not a lot of gay actors. Yeah. When you cast someone that you in your mind thought, okay, well, I think this guy might be gay. Was that on your mind, or was that?
We cast people. We had a whole storyline about a transgender storyline way before its time.
Wow.
Children. And that was really an interesting casting for me to explore. And they included transgender meetings and things like this along the line with that. And so I went out looking for transgenders all over New York, because there weren't very many that were actors during that time. This is way back.
Wow.
And we had a wonderful actor who played that role. I think you may remember Jeffrey Carlson. And it was just a thrilling transition to see that kind of work being done on daytime television. And for me personally, I just want to say that the most fulfilling thing to me was just always being able to facilitate a good actor's dream. Because working on All My Children might have been a small step to the rest of their career, or maybe not, but at least it was something that they loved doing, and this cast was so inspiring, especially the lead people on the cast, like Susan, Kelly, many others, Jill, everyone.
I want to say something about Judy, because having worked with Judy as a producer, I can tell you that Judy's taste is exquisite.
Oh, thank
And
you.
so she brought in some of the most wonderful actors. But I also want you all to understand that the casting director does not make the final decision.
No.
And that's very frustrating for a casting director.
Who does, the head of ABC Daytime?
The network makes
network.
the final decision.
Yeah.
Yes. And so very often you could bring someone in and the artistic side would say, oh, that's the kid we need. And you would get a different decision.
Wow, that's hard.
Very true. I can't stress how true this is, because it's a committee of people at the network, the writers, the producers, and so sometimes it's a struggle for them to come to the conclusion that everybody wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it happens, and it's all worked out very well most of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we leave, I just want to shout out a few people in the audience. The great Agnes Nixon's son, Bob, is here with his wife, Sarah. Sandy Gabriel is here, who played Edna Ferguson Thornton. Ray McDonald, who was on the show for its entirety, who played Joe Martin. His daughter, Sarah McDonald, is here. And Bill Christian is here, who played Officer Derek Fry. So, I mean, that really shows what a family you all are. And it's just been so meaningful for me to be able to get to do this on a Tuesday afternoon. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Give it up
Thank you.
for the gang from All My Children.